Please take your seats. The session will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. The session is about to begin. As a courtesy to our presenters, please silence all mobile devices. Thank you. Please take your seats. The session is about to begin. As a courtesy to our presenters, please silence all mobile devices. Thank you.
In Uganda, grandmothers have raised generations of children. They are the backbone of communities, yet too often left without the tools to thrive. Nyaka is changing that.
Nyaka is committed to expanding our program to 146 districts of Uganda. This will help to financially and economically empower women to have the economic means to support their children.
Our model brings women together in groups, trains them in skills and financial literacy training, and provides access to microloans through Nyaka Microfinance. By 2029, Nyaka will train 1.4 million women in financial literacy and entrepreneurship. We will train 500,000 entrepreneurs and small businesses, create 600 direct jobs, place 10,000 people into employment, and facilitate 50,000 practical trainings. Together, we will mobilize $11 million, $5 million to drive innovation and entrepreneurship, and $6 million to support women-owned businesses. 480 Nyaka alumni, once children raised by these same grandmothers, will lead implementation in every district, ensuring sustainability for generations.
It is a movement to empower women throughout the country, to give them financial freedom, to give them dignity, to give them the human right of being that human being who can decide what they earn, what they spend, and what they save and invest for the future, today and forever.
Please welcome to the stage Jacqueline Novogratz.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Novogratz, the founder and CEO of Acumen, and I've spent most of my life structuring the right kind of capital for problems of poverty. But my first CGI, which was the very first one, showed me in the clearest terms how powerful it can be to use social capital, our connections, our ways of being in the world as well, to move that world. What's extraordinary, showing up every year for the last 20 years, which I feel so proud of, is the community and the friendships and the young people I've met who've gone on to create organizations making such an incredible impact that we don't always fully understand, but we'll miss if we measure only in money. The global economy is facing increasing uncertainty, and people around the world are deeply feeling that strain. From new technologies that are changing the way we work, to global challenges like humanitarian crises and a rapidly changing climate, it is clear we must remain agile and adaptable if we're going to create an economic future that works for all of us. I'm incredibly proud and honored to be here to announce CGI commitments to action and share how the members of the CGI community are showing up in extraordinary ways. Our first group of commitment members are makers are catalyzing financial security as the first step toward economic mobility by creating environments where individuals and families can thrive. So please join me in welcoming the following commitment makers to the stage with a real and rousing round of applause, because they deserve it. Aniket Dogra of Hakdershak Empowerment Solutions. Tadeo Moriuki, Village Enterprise. And Timothy Flaka from Commonwealth. This first one is deeply meaningful to me because Acumen has been part of Hakdarshak for a very long time. In response to gaps in accessing and utilizing Social Security and social protection programs, Hakdarshak is committed to financially empowering 100 million families across India, Kenya, Brazil, Indonesia, and South Africa by 2030. Hakdarshak will combine agent-assisted services with its AI-driven discovery, eligibility, application, redressal program to help unlock $100 billion in welfare benefits. Last mile and hyperlocal organizations will be trained to help individuals access benefits, and Hakdarshak's Yojana card will enable people to access social benefits in the same account they used for banking. This is an essential step toward helping families around the world, but especially in the global South, overcome poverty, achieve financial inclusion, and begin to build generational wealth. Congratulations, Aniket. Now, Rwanda has made significant strides in economic development, but nearly half the population continues to live in extreme poverty, a country I also know very well. Aligned with the government of Rwanda's goal to reduce extreme poverty below 1% by 2030, Village Enterprise is committing to support 116,000 households across the country to overcome extreme poverty over the next 3 years. Village Enterprises will work with both the government of Rwanda and the Fund for Innovation and Development to leverage government systems and national ownership along a civil society-led, impact-focused model. This dual-pronged approach will drive entrepreneurship-focused poverty reduction and train parasocial workers to deliver a cost-effective, evidence-based approach. By 2030, they aim to reach 700,000 households and position Rwanda as a global leader in government-led, outcomes-driven poverty reduction. Congratulations, Tadeo. And then Commonwealth and JP Morgan Chase saw an opportunity to collaborate to improve the financial health and well-being of Americans, starting with workplace benefits. Since launching their commitment last year, Commonwealth and JP Morgan Chase have been successfully laying the groundwork to improve the financial well-being of 2.5 million workers by 2027. With a $7 million investment from JP Morgan Chase, Commonwealth is launching its benefits for future programs, starting with engaging with more than 45 employers in Columbus, Ohio, and Chicago, Illinois, to identify opportunities for innovation, research, and pilot programs. These extraordinary conversations are laying the groundwork to support a pilot cohort of 12 employers to implement forward-thinking employee benefits programs that enable debt reduction, workplace savings, and wealth building with a specific focus on retirement security. Congrats, Timothy. And now if we could have one more round, as I have the pleasure to hold up the certificate to honor all three of you incredible individuals and your organizations. I really do have a deep understanding of how hard and long these individuals work, so these are really meaningful. Our next group of change makers features commitment makers who are all working to build economic resilience around the world across various sectors and industries, starting with the individuals and micro enterprises that power our economies from the bottom up. So please join me this time in welcoming the following commitment makers. Anna Heinz from One Acre Fund. Christina Yarmolic from the Human Needs Project. Maksuda Maksudi from Winrock International. Who's actually supposed to be second in line, Maksudi? Could you guys switch places? Thank you. Casey Klein from My Agro. And Sasha Fisher from Spark Microgrants. So starting with One Acre. Despite growing approximately 35% of the world's food, smallholder farmers are the largest group living on less than $2 per day, and their livelihoods are made even more precarious as the climate crisis worsens. In response, One Acre Fund is committing to bridge the digital divide for this population by providing tailored agricultural technology. By 2027, 1 million farmers in 9 countries across sub-Saharan Africa will have access to digital, hyperlocal agronomic information to enhance productivity and resilience to extreme weather. This platform will provide season-specific guidance like sowing, top dress, harvest timing, and weather forecasts. Farmers will also be able to use the platform to access climate insurance products in the event of yield losses due to climate shocks or other disasters. With this added safety net and more effective approach to their craft, farmers will ultimately see a boost in their incomes to secure their economic future. Congratulations, Anna. With tariff-related uncertainty and economic strains threatening Bangladesh's ready-made garment industry, Winrock International, who has been doing this a long time, is committed to put 1,600 garment workers in Bangladesh on a path toward economic inclusion by 2029, while also mitigating human trafficking and other forms of exploitation that are prevalent across this industry. This comprehensive initiative will provide psychological support, career counseling, emergency relief like cash transfers and food aid, along with skills and entrepreneurship training, alternative job placement, and access to capital to improve economic outcomes. Congrats, Maksuda. To improve dignity, health, and economic opportunities for residents in Kibera and Nairobi, the Human Needs Project is committed to launching a new satellite community center to build upon its successful community-centric model that has served more than 100,000 residents since 2014. The center will expand access to clean water and sanitation, solar energy, digital training, and financial services. HNP will train local staff to provide services and outreach campaigns done in collaboration with trusted community-based organizations, and who will encourage use of the center. By 2027, the center aims to train 10,000 people and secure 5,000 job placements to put people on the path toward economic security and mobility. Congratulations, Christina. Two more. My Agro is also responding to the impact climate change has on American and African smallholders by committing to provide 700,000 smallholders across Mali, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire with climate-smart input packages and training in regenerative ag. Miagro's mobile layaway platform features an accessible payment model and a range of products to help farmers afford quality seed and fertilizer and diversify their output to report to climate shocks and safeguard their income stream. Beyond supporting food security and improving crop yields, this commitment empowers these farmers, at least 60% of whom are women, as micro-entrepreneurs and increase their incomes by $50 to $150 each year. Congrats to you, Casey. And finally, since launching their commitment last year to support rural communities in Rwanda and Malawi on the front lines of the climate crisis, Spark Microgrants has been making strides to bolster sustainable livelihoods and increase economic agency through a village cash and inclusive planning model. Spark helped train 25 villages in Rwanda to provide training in natural resource management. It enabled 24 villages in Malawi to establish tree nurseries to support environmental restoration. And through a partnership with the Rwandan government, an additional 90 villages are participating in the Green Facilitated Collective Action process, enabling Spark to surpass its goals to reach 139 communities. Congratulations, Sasha. Nice that you have some fans out there. As I said before, this particular group, both of these groups, are so deeply meaningful because this work is so critical and it is so hard. It is no joke that our farmers and people living in the regions that we've just been talking about are most affected and disproportionately impacted. So I just want to say thank you to each of you change makers for answering the CGI's call to take action together. You are part of a very important ecosystem. And if I think back on the 20 years since I've been coming to CGI, the level of sophistication and the ambition of your aspirations is really exciting and hopeful for the world. And so to every one of you, everyone here, I would challenge you to think about what ideas you can turn into your own CGI commitment to action. I will leave you with some advice. Use what we call the moral imagination. Have the humility to see the world as it is and the audacity to imagine what it could be. Dream big, go for it. And if you don't know where to start, start anyway. The work will teach you. You are not alone. This community is with you. And embedded in all of this work is that sense of community and this notion that the kind of change the world needs to see is change that goes from the inside out and ultimately requires all of us. So we're going to take a picture with this incredible group, and if you would join me in celebrating them once more.
Please welcome to the stage Alan Murray.
Good afternoon. That was good. That was good. The rest of you have a standard to meet on that. This is going to be an interesting 40 minutes. It's my honor to moderate these two panels that will look at the role that business can play in creating a better future for all. The first panel will focus mostly on the U.S. The second panel will be more global. And let me just get right to it and invite the first panel onto the stage. We're honored to have Liz Shuler, who is the president of the AFL-CIO, with us. Liz? Would you take a seat right there? Priscilla That's good. Priscilla Sims Brown, the CEO of Amalgamated Bank, which focuses on making impact loans. Priscilla, thank you. Why don't you take that middle seat? And Philip Reeves, who's a founding partner of Apison Heritage Capital, focused on reducing the wealth gap. Thank you. We're going to cover a lot of ground very quickly, so stick with us. And Liz, I'm going to go to you first. You, by the way, are the first woman to head the AFL-CIO. Yeah. Applause for that. Congratulations. And as I understand it, you've made it you're making a push to create jobs for younger workers. And so I'd like to talk about how you view the role of business. I mean, the relationship between the AFL-CIO and small businesses has not always been a great one. And so how do you see, but they create the jobs. And so tell me what you're doing to try and to create this better future.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity and to be with all of you. For those who don't know the AFL-CIO, we're an umbrella organization of 63 unions, nearly 15 million working people. And the folks who served your food this morning, the folks who are running all of the audio and visual and making sure we have electricity in this space, if you're going to watch the Yankees game tonight, they're all union members. And they make our country hum. So let's just say thank you to their work. And, you know, workers are enduring a lot of uncertainty right now in the economy. And our members and all working people, of course, are working for large companies, small businesses, and are experiencing a lot of uncertainty right now. And we actually represent folks who have collective bargaining agreements, union contracts, who can negotiate better wages and conditions, but a lot of workers cannot. And they show up to work and they create wealth for their employers and are getting less and less in the way of a return on the work that contributes to that wealth. And as we know, inequality is skyrocketing. 60% of people in this country live paycheck to paycheck. But you talk about what ails us in this economy and what we could be building, an aspirational and a better future and a better economy that could really work for working people. It would have to be in partnership with workers. And the way we do that is through unions. The public is now seeing that. 70% of people in this country are pro-union. 70%. So that tells you something. They feel like it's not working for them and it's broken. So we definitely look at ways to create partnerships with employers, because if the employer doesn't succeed, we don't succeed. And when you said small business hasn't really worked with unions, I would have to beg to differ.
Yeah. Give us some examples. Give us some good examples.
Because if you think about construction, 70% of construction firms employ 25 people or less. And they are out there on their own. Unless you have a union that you can work side by side with to create a talent pipeline, a highly skilled, highly trained workforce, access to benefits at scale, where you can pool your resources into a system where unions can actually undergird all of these things and take the risk out for a small business, because they're competing against larger businesses that have access to these things.
Yeah. So you serve their needs. Is that a big focus that you've had since you've been in office?
Well, I think people think of unions as adversarial or confrontational, and we will stop traffic. Yes, we will. But at the same time, we realize that if we don't have jobs, we don't have opportunity. And unions really are a way to solve a lot of the issues that we're having in our economy, because working people feel powerless. They feel like they're out there on their own. They're not able to provide for their families. And unless they have power to come together collectively, they're never going to get the security that they need and meet the aspirations they deserve.
Well put. And so, Priscilla, you run a socially responsible bank. There are some people in this country who think that's an oxymoron. So why don't you describe what that is and how it works and what you do?
Okay, but I first have to start with where Liz left off, because we also believe in collective action. And we believe in it because we are the evidence of it. Amalgamated Bank was started by the Amalgamated Clothing Workers Union members. These were mostly immigrants who were in the needle trades, back then it was called, the textile workers here in New York. They couldn't get banking and they couldn't get fair treatment, and so they started a union and they started a bank. And we're the result of that, proud members. So we certainly get it. And the history of this bank for the last 100 years has been to sort of continue and build on that legacy. So we're still the largest union bank, and we are publicly traded, but 40% of our shareholders are union members and union organizations. And then we also have expanded to become the largest political bank, the bank for not-for-profits, particularly those that are interested in social justice and racial justice and economic justice, foundations, climate groups. About 40% of our lending is in climate-related projects. So that's what it means to be a socially responsible bank. It means to be responsible to the communities we serve.
Does it or can it affect your financial return in any way?
In a very positive way.
Positive way.
Yes.
But
this notion that you can't do well and do good is outdated and really kind of silly, and we're good evidence of that. But there's also lots of people in this room and in this meeting who've also been great evidence of that. Yeah. We're publicly traded. You can see we're very transparent. You can see all of our returns, and they're pretty darn good.
yeah. And Phil, you're working at the same problem from the investment side. Capitalism to promote equity. How do you do it?
I mean, I think it's, to Liz's point, the wages are a big part of getting working people back on track, but that's the income statement, if you will, and we're focused on the balance sheet. And so employee ownership is this idea where you take a company and instead of it being owned by a single founder or a single family, it's owned by the people that work there so that they can accrue that benefit, they can build wealth. And for a lot of folks, the opportunity to really climb up the wealth ladder is challenging. Like you can't buy a house, that's getting harder and harder. Starting a business is super challenging, but every single person goes to work. And our frame is that by simply going to work, you should own a share of the economic value that you help to create. And so the way we position it is we create a secondary retirement account that invests in the business where you work. And as that business grows, as that share price increases, that's net wealth to you that you didn't have to contribute to for like a 401k. It wasn't deducted. It's simply a new benefit that goes along with you for the rest of your life.
And Philip, this idea of employee ownership has been around for decades in various forms, ESOP, so on. Why hasn't it caught on, and what is it going to take to get it to catch on?
You said it. I mean, it's 50 years of history of the ESOP structure. It's bipartisan in nature for a lot of reasons that we can talk about. I think what's made it so challenging is that it's a complicated regulatory thing to set up. And so our fund, what we've done is simplify it. And so there's 10 trillion small businesses and assets that need to change hands. Those owners, they could sell to private equity, they could sell to a competitor, they could sunset and close. And so we're introducing a fourth option is you can sell to your employees. And the way we make it easy is we say, look, the complexity, the challenge of the transaction, we'll quarterback that for you. Oh, instead of you doing these really large seller financings, we'll fund that out of our fund. Oh, and by the way, you're worried about what's going to happen to your workers. We're going to take care of them, and we're going to shepherd your business for the next chapter. And when you can do that and say that to an owner, you compete head-to-head against others.
And so you're finding companies are taking you up on it?
Absolutely. I mean,
do you think it's growing as a percentage of ownership?
I think so. I mean, it's still nascent. I mean, if you look at the scale of private equity and capital markets, I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars. Employee ownership is a niche but growing asset class where there's probably, I think there's estimates that there's several billion in it. And so we're pointing the spear trying to grow in that with
Liz.
I just wanted to make a comment around the idea of an ESOP. Sounds, yes, let's expand it. But I wanted to make the plea that it be done in collaboration with workers, that workers need to have a voice, a seat at the table, because we've also seen ESOPs go badly where a company over leverages and that workers are left holding the short end of the stick. So I think having a union partner across the table from you, where we have individual power to, speak up and sound the alarms, I think that's really important.
But in general, you share this effort to push towards employee ownership.
We've seen it go very well, too, again, in a collective bargaining setting where we can actually negotiate our fair share. Yeah.
Yeah, Priscilla, give us an example of the kind of loan that Amalgamated would make that a traditional bank wouldn't make, and what the benefits are.
There's so many good examples of that. But what I would say is, when we think about our client base and when we think about society in general, we know that the most vulnerable members of society, the workers that all three of us are talking about, we know that they are also vulnerable to everything else that perpetuates the wealth gap. So they're vulnerable to healthcare problems, and healthcare debt. They're vulnerable to climate and the resilience that they need to defend themselves in the event of a weather incident. They're just not as strong. They don't have it. They don't have the resources. So we think about products that help to address some of these things. One example to that would be something called Property Assessed Clean Energy. This is where a low or moderate income homeowner who has low or moderate income may want to put solar panels on their home or a heat pump or new appliances, but they simply can't imagine taking out that kind of loan. They can do it through PACE, this Property Assessed Clean Energy. The loan is repaid through the tax base and therefore has a very long tail. They're not asked to provide a credit score. They simply are leveraging the equity they have in their homes, and that becomes a win-win for everyone, including us. We really like that product. We have about $1.2 billion on the books. But we do other things, like, we think credit scores are kind of a lazy way to underwrite. We've looked at loans that have gone bad, and we've applied a new underwriting methodology that takes into account things like rent and other types of payments, including union dues. And what we've learned is that we actually would not have granted some of those bad loans if we'd used this other underwriting method, which does not take into account credit scores.
Interesting. That's a great example. Thank you for that. Liz, we can't really have this conversation in this environment without talking about technology. I mean, I was at I did an interview yesterday with Kristalina Georgieva, who is the managing director of the World Bank. Their estimate is that 40% of jobs will be affected by AI over the course of the next decade or so. And in developed countries, it's 60% of jobs. So how are you thinking in your strategies about this onslaught of technology and how it's going to affect this better future that we're trying to create here?
The labor movement thinks about this day and night because every job will be impacted. No matter what kind of work you do, no one is immune. And we're already seeing technology creeping into the workplace and the harms that it's been causing because it's unregulated. So I think about the Amazon warehouses where people are wearing, a wrist device, a wearable that monitors the wrist movements to see if it's moving enough, every 7 seconds, or monitoring or surveilling you if you're talking to coworkers who might want to form a union. So there's endless examples of this technology and how it's impacting our jobs. We are not anti-technology in the labor movement. We are anti-greed because this technology has the potential to make our lives better and safer and our jobs, easier. But the way it's trending is it's actually starting to be a low-road, low-wage future that dehumanizes us and makes us less safe. So we want to work alongside the technology, but we need guardrails. We need guardrails.
Such as?
So making sure that, technology is tested before it's implemented, that workers have a voice and a seat in the table in how that technology is going to be used. How is their data being collected and monetized, and who benefits from that? Because otherwise we're just going to see this gulf increase of inequality.
Priscilla, how are you thinking about AI at Amalgamated?
Well, we think about it in a lot of the same ways. We think it's really important in that it can help close the wealth gap if we're providing information and putting it in the right hands, empowering people to really think about their financial futures, plan for their financial futures, learn, receive information. All of that's really good. In the bank, we're using some form of AI or robotics in a number of areas. It creates some efficiency, but we're committed to our union workforce, and we're committed to people who we know at the end of the day, it's people having relationships with people that make a big difference in banking. And so that doesn't change. We don't see that as being solved or changed by AI.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we have a partnership with Microsoft
Yeah.
that I wanted to make sure people knew about, because people say unions and Microsoft, the world's largest technology company, they have committed to co-create technology with workers in the labs and have agreed to neutrality, so that if workers want to form unions in their company, that they can do so without being intimidated, harassed, and fired.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that we come together with business
In a better place.
in a better place.
Phil, thoughts on this? Can an AI agent join a stock ownership plan yet, or?
We're working on it. I mean, so we see it for small businesses. You know, we're seeing it to other points on the edge. So like we have an investment in a construction company. They're using AI to get their RFPs done faster. We have an investment in a rural plant nursery. They're looking at technology to help with water pressure. And so we don't think, I mean, part of our investment thesis is the worker is where the value driver is. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. That rural nursery, after we invested, they're sitting down having a management meeting, and they say, hey, well, we sold out of our crop this year. Like, that was a great year. And then the CEO says, oh, well, we also sold out last year. And then the employees say, well, we should, you know, because these employees have a voice in the stake now, hey, we should grow, we should invest so that we can sell more next year. Seller says, oh, I don't really want to do that. It's kind of challenging, it's a lot of work. And the employees say, but it's not your company anymore. It's ours. And so they present a plan to the board. We bring employees to our boards. And that company invested so that they can now have 20% more production, and they sold it out.
Yeah.
That net
Wow.
increase. And what's so important is that they felt that they could do that, but for us and our LPs, like, that's not in the investment committee memo.
So we're almost out of time here. This is fascinating, and you're going to have to do this very fast. But I want each of you to say the one thing that makes you optimistic about the future and the one thing that worries you about the future, and you have to do it in a very few words. Phil, you start.
I mean, I'm forever optimistic because I get to see working people building wealth every day. So I get to day in and day out see people realize their dream. I'm becoming more optimistic because a generation from now, when someone will say, oh, well, my grandmother was at that plant nursery and now I have enough money to do my startup, that's what we're playing for.
Great. And flip side, what wakes you up in the middle of the night?
Yeah, the
list
economy.
is too long?
The economy. I think the economy is, very shaky.
Priscilla.
We're the bank for change makers, so I'm really optimistic about the fact that there have been low moments this year for some of our clients, and I think people have agency now. They're feeling, you and I talked about this backstage, there's a sense that people are figuring out what can we do as opposed to thinking about what we can't do. What worries me is I worry about information or disinformation causing people to make bad decisions. And this is across a number of sort of elements. But I see it, you all see it. Yep. And I worry that we're driven not by facts, but we're driven by disinformation sometimes.
Me too. Liz, quick final word.
Well, since you already said technology and the economy, which ditto, what keeps me up at night is our democracy and how fast it's sort of slipping away. And by the way, unions undergird democracy, and if we don't have a strong union movement, our democracy is not strong. So what gives me hope is young people. Young people are creative, they're finding solutions to problems and willing to take risks.
Perfect. I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, all three of you. Liz, Priscilla, thank you. Phil, great to be with you. Thanks. So we're now going to turn to the global stage, and we have another great panel to do that with. And if I can, I'll go ahead and introduce them and bring them on out. Samachi Chris Asaluka, who is the CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation. Samachi, why don't you join me right here, please? And then Linus, yes, big round of applause for Samachi. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Linus Idahosa, who is CEO of Del York Companies, which works in Nigeria, across Africa, and the world. Linus, why don't you take the middle seat? And Vishal Gochi, who is CEO of Kiva, which works on financial access issues. Vishal, thanks for being here. So, Samachi,
Hi.
good to see you.
Great to see you. Great to see everyone.
Part of the mission of your foundation is job creation, which is a very big issue. High unemployment rates in many of the countries you're working in. Tell me how you go at it.
Yeah, you know, I'm the CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation. The Tony Elumelu Foundation is the largest philanthropic organization in Africa. And the work that we do is that we give training, mentorship, access, and funding to entrepreneurs across all 54 African countries. And you know, your point around job creation is so important because Africa is by far the youngest continent. We have a lot of under and unemployment. And we've realized that governments and large corporates cannot create the jobs in the millions that we need every year. It is SMEs that can create the number of jobs. And we think that the most powerful tool to enabling and democratizing access to job creation is by identifying and supporting entrepreneurs. You know, young entrepreneurs in all the different communities understand the challenges that exist and have solutions to these challenges. They have the knowledge, the insight, the experience, the networks. They just need a little support. And we've seen enormous impact by training and funding these entrepreneurs. We've now funded 25,000 entrepreneurs. They've gone ahead, 25,000, wow. And they've gone ahead to create over 1.5 million jobs only since 2015. So you can imagine the incredible potential if we all focus on young entrepreneurs.
And you're focusing on You're focusing on SMEs. It's not microloans.
Not loans. So it's grants. So we give you grants of $5,000 in seed capital. It's not equity. It's not a loan. We don't expect to get this back. We just think that that's enough to go to market, to prove your idea, to hire one more person, to rent a space out. You know, to just do. We don't dictate what you do with that grant. You're allowed to do whatever it is.
Linus, you're working in the same field, but you've been focusing particularly on creatives. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you're doing it.
All right, so the creative industry happens to be one of the most vibrant industries you'll find within the continent because of how young the population is. And one of the greatest things you'll find is that there is a plethora of talents all across, not just the country where we operate, but across the continent of Africa. And you have quite a lot of folks who are incredibly gifted in areas spread around the creative industry, but require the right type of infrastructure for them to be able to commercialize their craft, right? So that they can compete globally with their colleagues. And so, what we've decided to do is to not just focus on capacity building, but to see how we can create an ecosystem where we bridge the gap between academia and industry for them to help them connect, you know, these skills to productive endeavors all across the world.
Yeah, and Vishal, explain your theory of change.
Well, we believe that ordinary people working together can solve extraordinary problems. And the way we've done that over the last 20 years at Kiva is helping people get together, pool their money, and help support entrepreneurs all across the world who are facing the world's toughest challenges. And what we believe is you give people access to resources, trust, and a second chance, and they can solve problems on their own. So no one's looking for charity. People are looking for opportunity, and that's what we help provide.
But explain, you say it's like crowdfunded. Where does the capital come from?
Capital comes from ordinary people like you and me, putting $25, $50 on kiva.org.
And then you use that money to seed new enterprises.
Yes, we use that money to pool together and then work with several partners organizations, like you saw the video playing with NEACA in the beginning, organizations like that who are in the field, and through them, make sure that people get access to resources.
Linus, you mentioned skills. Skills is a critical piece of this, I assume, for all three of you. How do you give people the training and the skills and the understanding they need to build successful businesses? Do you have a special methodology for that? What's your secret?
Yeah, there's something that we've called the Skilldustry, which is a proprietary model that we have designed for how we train people. Because what we observed was that quite a number of people get trained. Most of the universities you have across the country, you find people who are training in theoretical aspects of the skills that they want to work in. But when it comes to production, it's a totally different game. So what we're trying to do is to create a space where people are trained, but at the same time they can produce within the same location. So that's how we termed it Skilldustry. So if you are a filmmaker, for example, you have a studio where you can hone your skills. If you are, let's say, a fashion designer, you have a place where you can actually hone your craft within the same location. And we emphasize the importance of producing things on ground and learning from each other to be able
you create the space where the creation takes place.
Yes.
Cool. How do you think about the skills challenge, Samachi?
No, I think that it's a deep challenge, and what we do is we train young people on how to become business owners. So we give them business management training. But I think the most important part of the training we deliver, it's not the hard skills and the information we share, but it's the mentor matchup. So we match each entrepreneur with a mentor who is in that similar sector, who's worn those same shoes, faced similar challenges, and is able to give you guidance, direction, insights, and sometimes just listen to you rant. Because a lot of our entrepreneurs tell us that entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey, and many times they feel it's them against the world. And so to have a mentor who's able to listen to you, give you guidance, hold your hand, connect you to resources and networks that you ordinarily wouldn't have any access to.
Love it.
Really helps.
Yeah, so creating skills by co-locating, creating skills through mentorship. Vishal, any other tactics that you've used?
Yeah, I think we've worked in 80 different countries across the world. And what we've seen time and again is we don't have the answers sitting here. The answers lie with the communities that face the problems. And so we trust, our model of working is trust the partners, trust the people who are located in the communities that need help. And they are the ones that we work with who can train and make sure that people are successful.
It's a really inspiring vision. I mean, what you've tapped into is you don't have to send people off to school to learn. They learn from each other. They learn together, and they build on each other's skills. And let me ask you the same question I asked the last panel about technology. If 40% of the jobs in the world are going to change, maybe 60% are going to change over the next decade, how do you prepare the people you're working with? We've never seen a technological change that has invaded business that quickly. How do you prepare your people to deal with that technology onslaught? You want to go first, Samaj?
Yeah, sure. I think that with the onslaught of the new technology, we have a huge responsibility to create access, because this technology has the capacity to further deepen inequality. I think that we're talking about inequality right now, but the next 5-10 years, it's going to be way worse if we don't do something about leveling that access. And so on the continent in particular, we can't really talk about AI and all the great things AI is already doing if we still have parts of the continent where 60% are without electricity. So we have to make sure we build the right infrastructure, we have to make sure we build the right regulation, we have to be responsible in what we feed the technology, because AI only shows us what we feed it. So if we feed our biases and our false assumptions into AI, it's just going to throw up and magnify that on a larger scale. So we must be responsible in what we feed this new technology, how we democratize access to this new technology, and how we put in place infrastructure that doesn't even leave more millions behind. That's already the case.
But it's a huge problem, right? I was with the head of the Secretary General of the Digital Cooperation Organization last night, who was talking about people often point to Rwanda as a company that's provided access to everyone, but she said only 13% of the population is using that access. How do you make this technology wave something that lifts the people up you're working with, not holds them back?
I think, there's access and there's affordability. So if it's there, but then it's very steep in terms of paying for it, then I'm not incentivized. Exactly. If I don't have to, I'm not going to go on it. So it's about affordability and making sure that we're creating true access, not just in the name, but in actually people being able to consume it.
Linus, technology is obviously causing huge change in the creative industries. How are you thinking about it?
So the thing is, I believe very strongly that this is not a problem that will be unique for Africa, because we have tons and tons of challenges to solve within the space, and we have to be intentional about how we focus on our unique challenges. And what we've done is to pretty much just understand that it's important that we look at the latent comparative advantage that we have as a continent and really focus there. For example, we came up with this for our Reskill Africa project, a tool sharing economy, because we understand that we have loads of talents, but the gap actually exists with tools. And you have also creators who have challenges with, creating the right finance for them to be able to, hone and commercialize their craft. So with our tool sharing economy, for example, we are using technology towards ensuring that people don't need to own expensive equipment, right? They can share.
Can you give an example of that, of the tool sharing?
So this tool sharing, so for example, we're talking about cameras and lighting equipment needed for them to produce stuff that it can expand. We have an animation program, for example, that we're working in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation, where we're training about 60,000 people. We have to find creative ways of ensuring that people are able to work along teams, right? Share studios, share equipment, and all that. And part of what we're doing with the Reskill Africa program and our commitment to action here is centered around scaling this so that as many people within the creative space can actually afford these technologies we're using to build this out.
Vishal, how are you thinking about technology?
Well, I'll be lying if I tell you that I know this is how it's going to work out. But the thing I do know is technology is the reason why Kiva has been able to create the impact it has. We started 20 years ago and rode the wave of the internet. That's the reason why we've had over 2 million people all across the world. We are able to crowdfund money from them and distribute about $2 billion plus to 5 million people across the world. And that is not possible, would not be possible without technology. So what I'm confident about is we'll figure out a way how we'll use technology to do even better.
Is crypto or stablecoin becoming part of your fundraising?
We are definitely thinking about it. It allows us to have another mechanism of how we can distribute money in an effective and cheap way. So yes.
Yeah, part of the issue that all three of you are dealing with, the scale of the problem is so large, and you're dealing with small businesses. Can these programs scale to a point where they really make a difference?
Yeah, for us at the Tony Elumelu Foundation, our vision, mission, everything we do is around supporting African entrepreneurs. So we're calling to our international friends, international partners, development agencies, to rethink how we look at development. We think that it's time for development to have a 21st century approach. And we do that by centering young people, by centering entrepreneurs, not by handouts, not by charity, but by investing in these young people. Because these young people, again, have the understanding, the insights, the knowledge, the passion, the hard work to transform their communities. We funded 25,000 in 2015, giving them training. They've created over 1.5 million jobs.
How many jobs?
1.5 million jobs, and that's incredible, and this is just since 2015. So you imagine if all our development funding was centered around young Africans who are already out there doing amazing, great things. Imagine the jobs we would have unleashed right now. So that's our call at the Tony Elumelu Foundation. let's work together, let's scale the work we're already doing. We have our skin in the game, we have our track record, we have our money, we're investing in these young entrepreneurs. Let's take that to the next level and let's, inspire and empower millions more young Africans.
Yeah. Linus, Vishal, scaling.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've identified some very key sectors that will be indispensable to the growth of the industry generally, and the animation industry plays a huge role. Quite a number of studios in different parts of the world are looking at countries like in the Philippines, India, and all of those places to outsource talents. But the challenge we've always had in Africa is not the scarcity of talent, but it's actually the scarcity of systems. How do you create a system that is that can be trusted by international partners, and you can aggregate all of these talents in a way that can help them outsource their creative talents globally? Unfortunately, most of these countries on the continent speak very good English. They can communicate with their counterparts. They just need to be organized in a way that these jobs can be exported across border and used domestically. So part of what we are doing is to build an infrastructure which we call Kivolania. It is designed to house a first of its kind creative institute that will accommodate all of these talents from all over the world and work with business organizations and SMEs to actually hone these skills and reintroduce them to the international market, both from the physical and digital infrastructure that we're building out for them.
Yeah. Anything to add?
I'll echo what Jackie said to start off with. If you don't be worried by the scale of the problem, start anyways. So start small. Start anyways. Do something. And that's what we believe. That's why it's every $25, $50 contribution you make results into something.
So I want to ask the three of you the same question that I ended the other panel with, which is, what is it that you see going on that makes you really excited about the potential for solving this big problem over the next decade? And what is the one thing that leaves you really worried? And Vishal, I'll ask you to go first.
I'll say I get to see the generosity of the hundreds of thousands of lenders who are on Kiva, who are trusting their money with somebody who they have never seen. And on the other side, I see thousands of entrepreneurs who are resilient. So my belief is that the world's problems are not unsolved, they're just unfunded, and we need to figure out how we get the money there. The thing that keeps me awake is actually a bunch of things to worry about, but can we at Kiva do what we need to do? Can we execute?
Yeah. Linus.
Yeah, 400 million people on the continent of Africa. That's, talking about people below the age of 30, that's a huge number, and it holds a whole lot of promise. And what we do with that number, within the next 4 to 5 years, you're going to be getting a lot of incursion into the continent of Africa, looking for ways to take advantage of these skill sets that are there. And so I see that Africa will totally be a different story, and its creatives will play a huge role in how the continent evolves. And then the challenge that keeps me awake at night is the institutional voids that we have within these countries, right? How do you creatively work with governments to be able to create a structure that helps these businesses thrive in a way that can help them take advantage of the opportunities that you find just like here and in other parts of the world and make the best use of it?
Samachi, final word.
Yeah, I know young African women keep me very excited for the future. Their resilience, their creativity, their passion, their energy. I'm so hopeful, as to all the things they will accomplish, all the things they're already accomplishing. And it's important that we continue to increase women economic empowerment so that we continue to unleash the great potential young African women possess. The thing that keeps me up at night, I don't like how so many countries are looking inwards. I think that globalization is a great thing, and I think that that's something we must continue to encourage. We must continue to get more partnerships between countries, and so that's something that concerns me, definitely.
It's both great points, but I have to say the three of you have left me more optimistic, so thank you for that contribution. A round of applause, please, for this panel. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this session. Please make your way to the main stage closing session in the Grand Ballroom. The closing session will begin at 4:45 p.m.
Feel good about that. Left turn goes to center. Rest of the stage gets struck. We pull the spike tape.
There is a lip. So
we'll just. Yeah. Let's do that, and we'll advise the advanced crew. Striking this. Second set of stairs, and then just 10 stair across. And I set the first one.
Got it.
And that's it for that one.
Okay.
That's good for them.
Hey, Ryan.